Microsoft Azure. Okay, so we've had AWS support, we've had VMware Cloud and AWS support. So the public clouds, we already had 2 public clouds in Network Insight. It grabs all the compute and network information. It also grabs the network flows that actually happens in real time in those public clouds. So you can have the same visibility on-prem as in the public cloud. And with Azure, we've extended that where we actually get all the flows. We get the configuration from Azure. So basically, you just enter a subscription, and it will discover all the compute instances behind that subscription. It will look at all the network configuration, so application security groups, virtual networks, routing tables, the firewall rules that exist inside the network security groups. All that configuration is then correlated to each other again, and you will be able to look up dashboards for an Azure VM and see what all the configuration is attached to it, but also see the real-time network flows that happen, go in and go out that specific VM. You will be able to get a few things that the Azure portal does do, but not in a real straightforward way, which I will show you in the demo. But because of that we correlate everything together, we can get a lot more dashboards out there, a lot more information that you can actually use. So the functionality itself, so we've got Azure tied into the application dependency mapping. So application discovery works with Azure VMs. So if there's an application, a hybrid application, you can now discover that application using Network Insight. We can do security recommendations. So using those network flows, we can actually recommend firewall rules for the Azure VMs. So if there's an allow any rule on those VMs, we can recommend those firewall rules to make that a little bit more stricter and a little bit more secure. We can see which types of flows are happening inside Azure. So is it inside Azure itself? So is it from Azure to Azure? Is it from Azure to an on-prem, or from Azure to an internet destination? So flows are also categorized in that way. And as I already mentioned, we've got a lot of dashboards based on the subscription, which you are seeing on the screen right now. We've got the virtual nets, network security groups, application security groups, Azure VMs, subnets. The list goes on. And all those dashboards actually represent the same that you are used to from Network Insight, displaying relevant information, but also putting that timeline at the top, so you will be able to see the changes that happens with those objects over time, which I will also show you. Okay, so it's a matter of adding a subscription, an Azure subscription to Network Insight, and then it will start discovering VMs and the network flows that actually happen. Once the discovery has been taken place, you will be able to search on a lot of Azure things, so application security groups, network security group rules, interfaces, routing tables, etc. And you will also be able to use those entities inside searches. So you can search for Azure virtual machines inside a specific region, or inside a specific subnet, or Azure virtual machines that have had internet connectivity. All those search queries that we currently support inside Network Insight, it's been extended with the Azure support. And speaking about correlation, well, this is a quick flow overview where you can see a source destination on it, but also the actual source VM, the source manager, which is going to be the Azure subscription, and also the source Azure VNets and the network security groups that have been attached to this Azure VM. So everything that we can correlate to a specific flow is then also displayed towards the actual flow information. You can also see applied firewall rules, and I love how Azure actually represents the firewall rule IDs, but it's pretty big. But you can click on those applied firewall rules and actually see what type of rule it is, so which ports is allowed, what is it applied to, etc. So the security planner, or as it's kind of turning into the migration planner, because you can use the same data for migrations as well, has also been extended with Azure support. So we can add applications or add Azure VMs inside applications. So if you group by applications or tiers, Azure VMs will also start showing up. We've actually extended the word VM to also include VMware VM, but also include Azure VM. So if you group by VM, you will also see Azure VMs popping up. The security groups, same thing, NSX security groups, AWS security groups, but also Azure security groups. So if you group by Azure, or if you group by security group, you will also see the Azure security groups popping up. And then as a separate nomenclature, we've also got Azure VNet. So if you've got a specific VNet mapping out that you need to do, so determining how much traffic is going between VNets, you can group by Azure VNet, and then you will see what traffic it is, how much it is, and which VMs are actually using the traffic. Same thing for top talkers. You've also got new source and destination Azure VNets here. And also, well, basically everything that is already talking about grouping things, you will also be able to group that by these new Azure objects. Okay, let's have a look at how that looks. So again, if you've got Azure added, you will see it popping up in your dashboard. You can also get it from the environments and then go into Microsoft Azure. But let's just have a look at what this is. So most importantly, you can add multiple subscriptions, so you don't have to jump between subscriptions to be able to see what kind of compute, what kind of networking do you have in Azure. You will be able to add them all. So in this case, you will see two subscriptions. You can zoom in. There's not a lot to a subscription per se, but in the dashboard itself is a little bit more extensive. Inside the global overview, you've got the compute, and then, well, you've got all the Azure VMs listed here. You can start filtering these by region. You can filter these by a lot of things. You can also zoom in on each of these VMs. And then get all the properties, so like which VNet is located in, which subnet, what is the type. So this is a specific Azure type that we've also discovered. How many vCPUs, memory, what is the region? So this one is in India, and the actual ID of it. We get all the events. Well, in this case, it's just been deployed, and nothing has changed to this VM, so there are no events. You can see the different network interface controllers. You can see the application security groups, if it has any. Let me find one that actually has one. I clicked on the VM too fast, but so you've got that list of VMs here on the subscription page. You've got the networking information, so all the interfaces on the virtual networks, all the routing tables, subnets, routes, etc. But more uniquely is this security overview, where you have all the security groups, all the rules, and all the application security groups. If you want to zoom in on one of these, I'm going to open up one of these and have a look at this application security group. So by default in the Azure portal, it's pretty hard to discover what kind of members are there for this application security group. So in this case, we put it front and center. So we've got associated VMs. So all these VMs, well, this single VM is attached to this application security groups. Again, if there's any changes in this application security group, you will see it here as well. And here's a good widget to see which VMs have actually been associated to this application security group in the last 24 hours. So new VMs that have actually joined this ASG. In this case, there's none. But here you can see all the VMs that have been attached to this ASG. You can have a look at the rules that have been attached, the firewall rules that have been attached. You can see that this is allow any not that secure, but oh well. You can also see that there's an HTTP and also the outbound rules. Though this is also going to be an allow any, just to make it a little bit more easy. Okay, so this is a application security group, but same goes for the VM. So I already touched on that a little bit. But this is a different VM where there are actually rules attached. So you've got your dashboard for the VM itself, you've got the properties, the vCPUs, memory, etc. You've got its NICs, and then the application security groups that have been attached, and also the network security group rules that have been attached directly to this specific VM. This one is a little bit more strict. So it allows internal communication for port 22. Again, you can click on all these objects and get more information around the actual source or the actual file rule or any of this. Let's go back to. Okay, so this is in a quick overview of Azure. I'm not going to show you the security planner because, well, hopefully you've already seen that before. Thank you for watching this video.